Ferreira, one of our members, will be talking about recent events in Western Sahara. Okay, on the Western Sahara. I'd like to start by welcoming the results of the vote on the proposal which was put to plenary. There was no intention initially for us to have a vote on Western Sahara during this part session, although a resolution was included on the agenda. We suggested a change to the agenda of the plenary. We felt that the situation in Western Sahara was increasingly out of hand and becoming so unacceptable that the European Parliament had to adopt a stance during this part session. Fortunately, our proposal was adopted, which means that we're going to vote on a resolution on the Western Sahara during the next part session. Amongst the fundamental points addressed in that resolution, and I would add that these points should be included in an upcoming joint resolution on the Western Sahara. So the fundamental points for us are, first of all, a clear condemnation of the Moroccan authorities. This means that the El Ayoun and elsewhere, the camps there have been dismantled by the Moroccan authorities, and we condemn that. We would also like to express our regret of the deaths, disappearances and displacements which have taken place following these events. Next, we think it's important that we have an international inquiry under the auspices of the United Nations with a view to clarifying the circumstances which led to these tragic events. That's a very important demand for us, as is the need to ensure that the Moroccan authorities provide free access for independent observers to Western Sahara. Members of parliaments, both the European and national parliaments, who wish to go to Western Sahara should be allowed to do so, and the same would apply to members of NGOs and journalists. As you know, over the last few weeks, a series of people have been denied access to the Western Sahara, including a member of the European Parliament, Vili Maya, who's also in the GUE group. Not only was he refused access, he was also expelled by the Moroccan authorities. He wanted to go to one of the camps to express his solidarity and to take part in a peaceful protest movement. Something else? Another essential point in the resolution. We believe that the scope of the United Nations mission should be enlarged. We believe its mandate should be changed so as to ensure that the United Nations can monitor compliance with human rights without obstacle. It should also be able to monitor any violations of human rights. So those are the key points which we feel must figure in any resolution on the Western Sahara, although of course this will have to be negotiated with other groups. Another important point on Western Sahara, a long-standing grievance for us, is fisheries agreements between the European Union and Morocco. We were opposed to this agreement. It was felt that this agreement suggested, although it was clear to us that Morocco didn't have sovereignty on those territorial waters. So we are opposed to any such agreement which includes the waters of Western Sahara, because we believe that Morocco doesn't have sovereignty there. On fisheries now, if you have 1 or 2 minutes left. A series of reports on fisheries have been adopted. One of these reports covers multi-annual management programs including for anchovies in the Bay of Biscay. The idea is to draw on the opinion of scientific experts who talk about recovery of stocks, and the proposal is to reopen inland fisheries to allow fishermen to resume fishing in those zones. We are delighted that this report was adopted. The same applies to the multi-annual management programme for horse mackerel. We've also made a proposal for that species, suggesting that a tax be differentiated, reflecting the specific nature of different fishing fleets. This is very important because this enables us to differentiate between craft inland fishermen and industrial fleets. These fleets are fundamentally different, operating in different fishing grounds with different objectives, and we think that the tax should be different. This principle was adopted, and we welcome that. If I may, I would like to comment now on the fishers' agreement between the European Union and the Solomon Islands. Despite the fact that we voted in favour of renewing this agreement, we believe that the implementation of this agreement should be condemned. Contrary to the provisions of the agreement, the joint committee bringing together the European Union and the Solomon Islands has never actually been convened, nor has the joint scientific committee, or in particular during the period of validity of the agreement. One final comment now on the breeding of exotic species in aquaculture. This report gave us the opportunity to tighten up the measures provided for. I'm just winding up, says the speaker. To tighten up measures to which aquaculture installations would be subject when it comes to breeding exotic species.